So for number two says find the measure of each angle. And remember, whenever I made our note video, whenever we're finding the measure of the angles, that's when we use the inverse trig functions. Okay, so it's similar to this. We're going to write an equation, but then we're going to solve it by using the inverse trig function. So again, what I want to do first is find any angle measure that's given inside the diagram. A's here, there's nothing there. B's here, there's nothing here. C is here, and C is 90 degrees. 90 degrees because of my square, right? And then we're going to say, okay, so let's identify which one of these angles we want to solve first. Now in this case, it doesn't matter if I grab A or B because neither one of them has any info. But since A comes first in the alphabet, I'm just going to go ahead and choose that one. And then I say, okay, I'm going to identify these sides according to the angle A. This is the hypotenuse. That one's always easy to identify because it's across the 90-degree angle. And then 4 is either the opposite side or the adjacent side. We can figure out by just tracing how far the side goes. The side goes from here to here. And it starts up here at A. It's next to angle A. So I know this is the adjacent side, right? And then we have adjacent hypotenuse. And then you got to ask yourself, again, which trig ratio uses adjacent hypotenuse? And that is, here's the adjacent, here's the adjacent in the hypotenuse ratio. Well, that's cosine. Okay, so I'm going to go back and say, hello. I'm going to say cosine of angle A is equal to the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. And then again, the last thing we want to do is get A by itself. And then how do we do that? We use the inverse function. We're going to take the inverse of cosine. And actually, of both sides of the equation, I don't have space in here, so I'm going to write it slanted. But it would look like this. Cosine inverse and cosine cancel. A comes down. And then this guy we type in our calculator. And when we type it in the calculator, there's the inverse cosine. And then it's 4 on top and then 7 on the bottom. Just type it in as 4 divided by 7. And then we get our answer. Our answer is 55.15. And I know it keeps going. But this is all I need to do to check for rounding. It's 55.1, but because of this 5, the 5 is going to bump that up to a 2. So my answer is 55.2 degrees. And then really we're done with all the hard part. Now I just need to figure out angle B. And angle B, remember these three angles have to equal 180. So if we start with 180 and subtract out 90 and subtract out 55.2, we'll be left with the value of B. So I'm going to go ahead and do that over here on the side. When you do the subtraction, you get 34.8. So this one is 34.8. Okay. Let me just double check that. Yep. And that is number 2.